From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I am Estefania Bravo, and this is From the South. Argentina's Senate rejected a bill seeking to legalize abortion. After a marathon debate, it threw out an initiative already approved by the lower house in June. The Senate voted 38-31 against the proposed measure, which would have legalized a woman's right to seek an abortion in the first 14 weeks of pregnancy. With this vote, abortion in the country remains a crime, punished with up to 4 years in prison. Every year, at least 350,000 backstreet abortions are performed, and dozens of women die from these procedures. Pro-choice supporters clad in green bandanas as the symbol of the movement danced to drums and swarmed the streets of Buenos Aires until the end of the session in the Senate, despite the biting cold. Some of the crowd were dispersed by riot police using tear gas and water cannons after a few demonstrators burnt garbage and threw stones at the police.
There was a chance to make history, and we are perpetuating the same system that causes harm to us.
I am leaving very disappointed and very hard to know that we are governed by people who don't understand what the people want.
And meanwhile, fireworks and shouts of joy erupted among anti-abortion groups camped outside the Congress. Earlier in the night, Buenos Aires Archbishop Mario Poli celebrated a mass in the capital's cathedral, which was relayed on giant screens in Plaza de Mayo.
It has been proven that Argentina is, was, and will be pro-life forever. We are here to defend life.
We are happy because it's a celebration of democracy, of a triumph of the two lives, the woman and the person in gestation. We will continue fighting and working for both.
But abortion rights supporters say they are not giving up. Miguel Ángel Pichetto, a Peronist opposition leader in the Senate, said during his closing speech that the future does not belong to the no campaigners. He added sooner rather than later, women will get the decision they are needed today. The prospect of legalization has energized women's rights groups and still enjoys huge support among the population. According to local media, the government is now looking at the possibility of decriminalizing abortion in the penal code. Nonetheless, termination of pregnancies would only be allowed in cases of rape or if the woman's health is at risk. Lawmakers from the ruling party suggested a referendum. Venezuela's National Constituent Assembly has removed parliamentary immunity for lawmakers implicated in the assassination plot against President Nicolás Maduro. The session was called after two opposition members of the National Assembly from the Primero Justicia party were named for their involvement. One of those lawmakers, Juan Requesens, was arrested on Tuesday by the intelligence service SEBIN for his alleged role in the attack. The measure was approved in an unanimous vote.
The members of the Constituent Assembly who agree with the removal of these deputies' parliamentary immunity do so with the customary sign, totally and absolutely approved anonymously by the democratic political conviction.
Juan Requesens is said to be among the people who financed the attack and was identified alongside another opposition leader, Julio Borges. In a recorded video testimony, one of the individuals directly involved in carrying out the plot, Juan Carlos Monasterios, indicated that Requesens helped him move to Colombia for training. Requesens had previously been accused of playing a leading role in the Guarimba violence of 2017. The Supreme Justice Tribunal ordered the arrest of former National Assembly President Julio Borges on Wednesday, accusing him of public instigation, high treason, and the attempted murder of President Nicolás Maduro. Borges lives in Bogotá, and the Colombian government has given no indication of extradition for the Venezuelan opposition leader. Meanwhile, Attorney General Tarek William Saab said that the prosecutor's office is actively pursuing charges against 19 individuals involved in the attempted assassination carried out on August 4th. The identities of the perpetrators were revealed on Tuesday when President Nicolás Maduro shared evidence incriminating a number of people linked to the Colombian government and with ties to the U.S. Some of the names included individuals who participated in the 2014 and 2017 Guarimba violence, as well as the attack on Fort Paramasi last year. Maduro instructed Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza to hand over all the necessary documentation to U.S. and Colombian authorities for the immediate extradition of those sought.
But I would also like to request the extradition immediately of the manager, the political manager, and the main financer of this terrorist group, Osman Alexis Delgado Tabosky, who lives in Florida. Know him, international community. See his face, Delgado Tabosky. He personally directed through communication radial systems, as I'm going to show you, directed the terrorist attack. But also, he financed and participated in the attack against the Paramacay fort.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us.
Planteamos una alternativa al modelo de desarrollo tradicional que siempre ha considerado a la Amazonía, a los territorios de los pueblos indígenas, como zona de extracción.
Welcome back. Colombia has recognized Palestine as a free, independent, and sovereign state. The government of Juan Manuel Santos stated the recognition in a letter issued on August 3rd, just days before leaving office. The decision was announced by the Palestinian embassy in Bogotá on Wednesday. This came as a surprise given Colombia's military alliance with Israel. The decision has surprised newly sworn-in President Iván Duque, who said he'll be reviewing the move. In a letter from the Foreign Ministry to the Palestinian representative in Colombia, Duque said that because of the omission the former President Santos made, his government will cautiously examine its implications and will act according to international law. The U.S. ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, has visited Venezuelan migrants in Colombia. Haley reaffirmed her government's position on pushing for a regime change in Venezuela. Her statement comes just a day after the attempt on President Nicolás Maduro's life that injured 7. Haley was in Colombia for President Iván Duque's inauguration. The U.S. has been a strong supporter of the Lima Group, of which Colombia is part. The Lima's group main focus is putting pressure on Venezuela.
This is a crisis where the region has not been as loud and active as we would like to see. We think they need to do more, but the international community, the world in general, needs to realize that we have a dictator in Venezuela that is doing everything to protect himself and is sacrificing all of the Venezuelan people to do it. But we really have to question, how long can this be sustainable? At some point, Maduro is going to have to be dealt with.
And former Chilean President Michelle Bachelet has been chosen to be the next United Nations Human Rights Chief. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres formally notified the General Assembly on Wednesday. The Assembly will meet Friday to approve Bachelet's appointment. If approved, she'll replace Said Raad al-Hussein of Jordan, who steps down at the end of the month following a 4-year term. Bachelet formerly led the UN Women Body for Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment. And the Electoral Tribunal of Mexico has validated the July 1st presidential election results and is therefore officially declaring Andrés Manuel López Obrador as the winner. The former Mexico City mayor, known by his initials AMLO, secured a win at the polls with 53.2% of the vote. After a unanimous vote by the magistrates, President Janine Otalora declared the presidential election valid and assured that López Obrador satisfied the eligibility requirements for which he is declared president-elect.
I want to honor the Mexican people for exercising democracy. I want to thank the people who believed in me. I want to acknowledge the political maturity of those who accepted the election results. We are witnessing historic events. The past electoral process has taught us so much, but the most important lesson learned is that there is a need to build a new democratic conscience and a new government for our people. On July 1st, our people demonstrated their willingness to change the course of the country's future. Now it's our responsibility to accept the challenges ahead and work together for the good of our nation. The people voted for honest governance. Most of the Mexican people are tired of the arrogance and dishonesty and want to end corruption, violence, and impunity.
The candidate who received the majority of votes in the Mexican election, according to final results by this tribunal, is the citizen Andrés Manuel López Obrador. The citizen Andrés Manuel López Obrador satisfies the eligibility requirements as established in Article 82 and 83 of the Federal Constitution, for which he is declared President-elect of Mexico.
Pablo Perez has more from Mexico City.
Social and economical inequalities caused by past administration by the Revolutionary Institutional and National Action Parties, and he also will be working on ending the wave of violence that plagues the country, and it will be done listening to the victims mainly. Well, López Obrador is now finally and officially the elected president of Mexico, but it will be until December 1st when he will take over his new post.
Pablo Perez from Mexico City. More stories now. 10 people have died and over 50 others have fallen ill in Peru after eating contaminated food at a funeral. Autopsies are being conducted to identify the cause of the death. Health Minister Silvia Pesá said that the food appears to have contaminated a family of chemicals used in pesticides. A former Peruvian health minister pointed to the reuse of pesticide containers in food preparation, particularly in rural farming areas. The United States and Ecuador will deal with security issues through a new office. Ecuador's Minister of Defense, Osvaldo Jarrín, confirmed the military cooperation with the U.S.
The Ecuadorian Ministry of Defense has announced the establishment of the new Security Cooperation Office in Ecuador. The ministry was careful to stress that the new entity would not violate the country's constitution, which was amended under former President Rafael Correa to ban the permanent presence of foreign troops in Ecuador.
The announcement made by the Minister of Defense was a surprise for us. We didn't know anything about it. We are open to dialogue with any other country, not only the United States, to reinforce security measures in the borderline.
The Defense Ministry also says there will be a special plane that will fly between Ecuador and the United States, which will be used to gather and share intelligence. It will stay for 3 or 4 days and then return. The ministry stressed it doesn't mean that a new military base is being established.
We are talking about an airplane that will gather special information. The airplane staff will have to sleep in a specific place. I don't think they will stay in a hotel. Most likely, they will stay in an Ecuadorian military base.
The ministry pointed they are working with different countries as Japan, France, Spain and China to strengthen bilateral relations to protect the country. However, several authorities have raised concerns about the decision taken by President Lenin Moreno.
Se intensifica casi de minuto a minuto.
Minute by minute, the nation and the region's security is at risk because of the presence of U.S. military troops. All of the past events occurred in a way to justify the U.S. Embassy intervention, the visit of the political figures, and the visit of the highest U.S. officials to Ecuador.
Tan escandalosa y tan a modo como para justificar la intervención.
This decision comes after U.S. Vice President Mike Pence's visit. In June, decisions taken included not only discussions regarding expanded U.S. security, assistance and commercial ties, but also consideration of a possible future bilateral trade agreement between the two countries. Denise Herrera, Telesur, Ecuador.
And in an interview conducted in Colombia, Ecuadorian President Lenin Moreno has said that his government will ask Julian Assange to leave the Ecuadorian embassy in London only if the British government guarantees he will not be extradited to another country. Australian-born Assange sought refuge in the embassy to avoid extradition to Sweden to face questioning about allegations of sex crimes, which he has always denied. Those allegations have since been dropped, but Assange could be arrested by the British police should he leave the embassy for breaching bail conditions. Assange believes that would pave the way for extradition to the U.S. for the publication of a huge cache of U.S. diplomatic and military secrets of the WikiLeaks website. Under Moreno, Ecuador has increased pressure on Assange, first by suspending his communication systems in March, and then by withdrawing additional security assigned to the London embassy in May.
The agreement has to be one that defends Mr. Assange's life, human rights and international norms. If we arrive at an agreement of that sort, we will be delighted to ask Mr. Assange to abandon the embassy and submit himself to the appropriate trial for not appearing before the British courts, which is preferable to spending 6 years locked up in an embassy. If the British government guarantees us that he will not run the risk of being extradited to another country, we will ask Mr. Assange to leave. We will talk first with his attorneys.
And in Bolivia, a man's best friend may also be his best ally in the fight against drug trafficking, as the country's training center for drug detecting commemorates its 40th anniversary. These canine crime fighters are playing an increasingly vital role in police operations in South America and the wider region.
Every dog certainly has its day at the Dog Training Drug Detention Center in the city of Cochabamba, where these four-legged crime fighters are on the job.
We specialize training dogs to detect drugs and explosive devices. We also train guide dogs and veterinary assistance dogs.
This is an international center where police officers from other countries, such as Ecuador and Brazil, receive professional training.
What we are practicing in this school is the object association by smell, which means we cover an object, which can be a towel, a ball, with the scent that we want to detect, such as cocaine, hydrochloride, or marijuana. Based on a national law, we have developed special odor rooms to do our job.
One of the concerns surrounding this type of centers is that the dogs can become addicted to this substance. After a few training sessions, there is, however, no evidence to support this argument. The dogs are also trained to detect explosive devices and counterfeit money.
Dogs can detect lithographic ink used to print bills, such as euros and our own national currency. We carry out our operations mainly at airports, where we first make the dogs smell several objects with different scents, so they will be able to detect it later on.
Of the 95 dogs in this training center, 14 are puppies, while 100 more have been trained in the past year to work across the nation. These animals are crucial to crime-fighting efforts, since Bolivia has been used as a major transshipment point.
We haven't found many cocaine laboratories, but we found more drugs coming through the country's border. We found drugs in vehicles, backpacks, and aircrafts. Drug trafficking has increased in the past year.
A dog can detect up to 16 scents. They are trained in a period of 1 year and a half. They start when they are 2 months old and retire after 8 or 9 years of service.
Barbados' former Minister of Industry and International, Donville Innes, has been placed on house arrest and was ordered to wear an electronic ankle bracelet. Innes has also been ordered to remain in New York until his next court date on August 23rd. The former public servant was charged in Florida for money laundering and accused of accepting bribes from an insurance company in 2015 and 2016 when he was a government minister. And buildings in the historic center of Ecuador's capital, Quito, will be adorned with light and color for the Festival of Light. This is the third light festival in Quito, attracting millions of visitors to the installations and visual projections that narrate the city's history. The festival is modeled after the similar event, which takes place in the French city of Lyon. This year's main attraction is the colonial area Church of San Francisco, which dates back to 1537. The mayor's office reports that 2.1 million people attended last year's festival, generating $50 million in revenue. Beautiful. And we'll take a short break now, but join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting. Welcome back. Health authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo, in collaboration with the World Health Organization, have started Ebola vaccinations amid the latest outbreak of the deadly viral infection. At least 9 people have died since August 1st as Ebola resurfaced in Mangina village in North Kivu province. This year, at least 36 people have died due to the infection in the country. Officials said 3,000 doses have been brought and vaccination will be held in phases. Health workers will get the shots first, followed by contacts of confirmed Ebola cases. And wildfires continue to spread through California. Let's take a look at that and more from around the world.
The Mendocino fire ripping through California grew by a further 10,000 acres after another blaze broke out in the area, reportedly caused by a traffic accident. The fire now covers an area the same size as Los Angeles. Some residents in Spring Valley, where the recent blaze started, have refused to leave in fear of looters. Some 14,000 firefighters are battling the fires, with around 19,000 residents fleeing. The inferno is described as the worst in the state's history and is unlikely to be fully contained until September. Hundreds of people demonstrated in the Italian city of Foggia against the exploitation of agricultural workers after fatal accidents killed 16 migrants over the last 4 days. Demonstrators held banners reading "No more people dying on their jobs in the countryside, apply Law 199/2016, referring to a law against illegal work and exploitation of agricultural workers. The march was organised by trade unions and several associations.
It's enough. We want a safe job. A job like everyone. Legality. We need to work. We want to live as everyone does, to have a contract and to be integrated.
A United States-backed Saudi airstrike in Yemen has killed and wounded civilians, mostly children, in Sada. A local health department chief said that 43 were killed and at least 61 injured. A hospital supported by the International Committee of the Red Cross, one of the few humanitarian organisations on the ground, is treating casualties from the attack. Yemen is facing one of the worst humanitarian disasters as a result of the Saudi-led airstrikes and blockade on Hodeidah port.
And we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, you can find them on our website at telesurtv.net/English. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Stefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.
An occasion to enjoy the cultural